We got huge class reworks coming in the War Within and feature revamps. Let's see some of the stuff that Bellular has to update us on here for WoW.
Welcome back to the Warcraft News. There's quite a lot to get into this week. So, Warlocks, you were made a bit furious last week, but there has been good news this week. Mob Remix, of course, is out. It seems to be a big success so far, and we're also pretty sure we know when pre-patch is. So, there's a lot to get through today, and I'll kick it off with Mob Remix and the pre-patch date. So, Mob Remix is out, and outside of a few instances of server issues at the very start and the disappointing discovery that LFR doesn't really drop any experience, which is weird, it does seem to be off to a flying start. And the best news is the confirmation that it will last 3 months. It ends the 20th of August, and that almost certainly means that that is also the week that we'll see the pre-patch for the War Within.
I'm just going to say, though, if that is the pre-patch for the War Within, I'll be, I feel like they're kind of late. Let me see, Warcraft roadmap. Let me bring it up real quick. Because based on how these dates work and how these little dashes are on this roadmap so far, I do feel like it should have came out sooner. Or that it needed to happen sooner, because here we go. This right here, a lot of people don't say this. This double slash right here, basically the end of summer, beginning of autumn, that's like September 22nd, 23rd. That's the official date in the world when you transition from summer to spring. Not in the world, but in our hemisphere, right? So that has to be that date. If we have August, what did he say, 29th or whatever? Did he say August 29th is when MOP Remix ends? Here, let's hear it again.
Patch for the War Within, and that pretty much will see the pre-patch certainly means that that is also ends the 20th of August, and that
20th of August. Okay, so if this event ends the 20th of August, he's saying that this, which is actually the beginning of summer, June 20th, 22nd, 23rd is supposed to be the first initial day of summer. That kicks off summer. He's saying this right here is the 20th of August. That doesn't make sense to me. That means that this tiny gap right here, we got 3 months in here, 2 months. That means this whole map is a little bit off. And all this shit has been pushed back a little bit. Because the way I see it, this pre-patch comes out and actually the 20th of August is more right here. And then we would see the War Within launch the next week. A lot of people commented recently in my video where I talked about this. But to me, if this map actually lines up properly, because remember too, this right here, this has got to be November. This has to be November. The 20th anniversary is not going to move. It's an obvious one. So for all of this to line up the way it is right now, this has to launch during Remix towards the end of it, and then this right here has to launch right after Remix ends. If this is all going to line up the way it is with these dashes and the summer, spring, and all that timelines. Just saying.
Almost certainly means that that is also the week that we'll see the pre-patch for the War Within.
If what he's saying is true, yes, Naomi, you are right. It would be a mid-September launch, 10th to the 20th. Yeah, it'd be during September. But if the roadmap holds true and all of this is still accurate, then this is supposed to launch like end of August. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm sure there's delays and things happen. They could have pushed things back a little bit.
And that pretty much means our expansion will be coming out late September, right? So that's what the dates look like. And we already had pieced this together, but Soul So Breezy asked about the significance of the end date in his interview about Mob Remix, and he got a very cagey, knowing response that to me spoke volumes even if nothing was said. So, you can take a look at this big login screen cooldown, and in a way, you can see it as a timer for the War Within as well. Now, there's also some great news coming from Remix. Yes, losing the LFR XP sucks, but we do have the confirmation that all Mists of Pandaria raids are daily lockout in the game. Even, by the way, not when you're time running. And that might be necessary, because you're going to need to kill Garrosh a lot, right?
Yeah.
The
20 times, I
have been unavailable since Warlords of Draenor's
You need these Bones of Manaroth. My screen is blocking them right now, my camera. These Bones of Manaroth beneath my camera right now, you need 20 of them to get these shoulders. The Garrosh shoulders from the Remix event. So you're going to have to kill him a lot. I'm not sure if he drops 2 each time you kill him or 1, but you need 20 of them.
On a vendor in Remix.
You get 1
you can
per
buy
run.
them with
I'm
bronze
not sure.
And some Bones of...
Could be 2.
Manaroth. Now, these bones drop from Garrosh on normal difficulty and above. Yeah. You're going to need 42 bones if you want all of the heirlooms and to buy the tusks. Now, he drops 1 on normal.
42 for all the heirlooms, but 30 for the tusks.
4 on heroic and 10 on mythic. So that's either a lot of easy...
Oh wait, how much did he said? How much?
That's either a lot of easy Garrosh or a lot of effort into killing a hard Garrosh.
Oh, so 10 on Mythic, 4 on Heroic, and then it'd probably be 2 on Normal.
Of course, you can also just run the mop raids in your Dragonflight character daily now, and you can try to get the appearances via RNG that way, and that might save you some bronze. Anyway, that said, the interview also claimed that there's over 30,000 bronze in a single Mythic Siege run, so maybe you won't be too hard-pressed to buy everything that you want. And I know...
This is why it's really important. The Mythic runs drop a shit ton of stuff, so you want to be able to start running that as soon as possible. The way to do that is to gear out quickly. You have to level up your gear with your bronze. Like, some people don't want to do it. They want to hold out until they get better gear. But you get a 95% discount once you've passed certain item levels. So just level out with the gear you have right now. Once you hit 70, gear that shit out, quickly pump up the item level with your bronze, and then you could start, worrying about what gear you get in best in slot and everything else.
Mythic is
You got to be able to
big.
do Mythic.
I just have to wonder how hard Mythic would actually be, though, when we have max level characters that are completely kitted out. Now, one last tip before we move on to the next story. If you want to max out your leveling speed, the experience threads stop dropping for your cloak at level 65 in favor for stats. So basically, don't try to grind more XP on a maxed out character, just roll a new one right away and continue tricking out your cloak with XP that way. Bit of an odd system, but I do kind of understand why they're doing it. We will be back next week with a lot of tips, tricks, just everything that's discovered over the weekend, so stay tuned for that. Honestly, I'm very excited to make those videos. Now, it wouldn't be an episode...
Like the frog controversy, I see Moishe talking about it. Yeah, people had an unfair advantage with the frog. Yes, if you don't know, the frogs got nerfed over the weekend. There was a frog farm that basically you could just freaking farm the shit out of it and get a bunch of bronze and everything else and be able to gear out really quick, basically pump up your gear. That's gone now. And people are saying, oh, it's unfair. Blizzard didn't retroactively take the shit. Technically, nobody was exploiting anything, really. They were just doing the best way there was to get bronze. And now it's gone for the people who hadn't done it. Well, you missed your chance. And at the end of the day, this is not really an end game thing. Mists of Pandaria Remix is just about leveling mostly. So, people missed it. Yes, and Blizzard's not going to do anything for those people. But there's 100 other ways. Plus, they buffed bronze across the board 25% on how much you get. So there's that.
The WoW news, if there wasn't a bit of controversy.
Yes, some Echo people went crazy on the
back. In Blizzard's eternal crusade to make raiders do mechanics without the help of add-ons, the mostly unsuccessful Private Ore system is going to be used in Mythic Plus for the War Within. Now, just to recap here, Private Ores are basically things that are hidden from add-ons. They can be seen on your screen, but an add-on can't access them via the API to do things like automated, assignments or calculations. To be clear in raiding, if you're doing LFR through Heroic, this stuff basically does not matter at all to you. The point with the Private Ore...
You know what I want? An add-on that I want that I haven't seen yet is one that automatically divides a raid. Like, if a raid needs to be divided into 2 groups, I want an add-on that says, okay, click, I need to divide my raid into 2, and it looks at all the DPS meters, healing meters, and everything else, and then separates the 2 tanks out, and then splits the raid evenly. Somebody come up with that shit for me, please. There is weak auras that do it. Are you fucking serious? I've been doing this myself this entire time. There's a weak aura. We'll find it. Somebody find it then.
They're Blizzard trying to solve that add-on problem at the hardest difficulty of the game, but the thing is that Mythic raids are really, really, really punishing, right? The pain of one person making a mistake can be pretty big, because that could mean the entire raid wipes. And that is been a little bit weird, because while, yes, right, the Private Ores have, they have stopped add-ons working in certain ways, people have just ended up doing goofy things to work around it, like using macros to input data from the boss into the weak aura, so the weak aura can then do the calculations. So it very much is an arms race, and with Mythic Plus Dungeons, I'd expect a similar thing, where if you're doing any kind of normal enough Mythic Plus key, say up to, a plus 10 in the new system, I think you're going to be absolutely fine. But for the people who are going to be trying to, really push the highest rating they can, they might feel that to get the competitive edge, they'll still need to do weak ores, albeit in a more roundabout way.
That's scuffed as shit. I'm a guy who hates add-ons mostly. I do. You guys know when I play, my screen is very simplistic. I don't like a lot of clutter. I don't like a lot of add-ons. I have the minimal amount of add-ons, and the more shit Blizzard puts into their own UI and everything else, the more I'm going to delete my add-ons. I wish I could play the game without add-ons. I think they're not good for the game, personally. But add-on developers will always find a way. Very true. And I understand there's the competitive side of things where, you want to parse to make everything perfect. I think that's fine to take data out of the game, put it into something, and then, change your rotation or do whatever to make yourself better. But what I don't like is an add-on that tells you what to do, or add-ons that are required basically to do certain boss fights. I think that's just bad games. That's such a bad game. If an add-on is required to do a boss fight, that's just shitty. You guys remember the Lords of Dread or whatever from, what was it, Sepulchre? Or was it whatever dungeon, whatever raid it was? That was horrible. You needed an add-on to be able to tell who was the person you had to vote. Remember that shit? That was garbage. That was a bad boss fight. Shouldn't have been that way. There should have been, if anything, a vote thing that pops up in the game already built in. But yeah, the Among Us fight, exactly. That was dumb. That was dumb. I don't like it when the game requires add-ons at all. And I wish add-ons were not a thing personally. Like I said, somebody wants to parse, that's fine. Put your shit in something and then learn how to play based on the data that comes back. But otherwise, please, Blizzard, just stop making us use add-ons.
So that's the big debate there, but when you actually look at the spells that are being used, well, the good news is Blizzard's intention is clear, and I don't think it's a problem. They want you to look at the game world instead of your UI. Now, this is specifically the Dark Orb, Rolling Acid, and Throw Dark Flame pickaxe abilities. They're all very clearly telegraphed in-game. The point is that rather than a weak aura announcing who is being targeted, Blizzard want you to actually look at the spell effect in the game, which does seem reasonable enough. Of course, this will surely develop as time goes on, so we'll keep you up to date. Next then, we've got to talk about class changes and maybe a partial unmaddening of the Warlocks. So there's been another alpha build that means more class changes, and in an outright miracle, Demo Warlocks just got a talent tree rework that people are really happy about. It's pretty sick. Right. The short version of this is they get a lot of 2-point talents dropped to being 1 point. Dreadstalkers are baseline, and Tyrant is easier to pick up in the middle of the tree, as well as having a pretty huge upgrade to Doom and Vilefiend. So Doom now blows up in an AoE and summons a Doom Guard when it expires, and it expires faster for every soul shard you use. Then the Vilefiend can be upgraded to be one of Sargeras' personal demon dogs, which looks awesome. It's these raid bosses from Antorus.
Raid boss demons.
Now, of course, the demonic core changes are still a thing. Blizzard say they're still thinking about it. They basically said, look, Warlocks, you guys are super powerful. You're super great. The bit of pain...
Not only are they great at DPS, which is the thing they do, but their freaking utility is unbelievable. Being able to summon in health stones and soul stones are like necessities in raid.
Should feel for that is that you're not the most mobile class in the world, and they essentially felt that Demonology was way more mobile because of demonic cores than Destro and Affliction. So they didn't really feel it was fair that one of the specs had that kind of additional, well, pretty damn massive power perk, really. Again, we'll have to see how that develops. Now, Destro Warlocks, you guys have actually been promised an update as well. That apparently will be in the next build. They will be returning a slightly different avatar of Destruction, so that's real good. And honestly, if it's anything like this talent tree work for Demo, that's great. And Athlox, you're also apparently due another look over once that stuff is done. So... hit them with feedback now. Shamans then, you guys have got the Totemic Tree, which is all about summoning in the new Surging Totem and buffing existing ones. For Resto, this actually replaces Healing Rain, and instead the Totem auto-casts a buffed version following allies, so that's kind of neat, and the other talents just more or less are granting bonuses based on Totem summoned and buffing their effects. For Enhancement Shamans then, well, it replaces Wind Fury Totem, but it grants the effect party-wide passively, meaning no maintenance is needed. It also pulses some AoE damage. And
I want Shamans to be able to just throw 16 totems down. Just be like a totem army. And they just filled with, all kinds of elemental shit. They're just making it rain, making earth fall. Basically like an avatar, earth bending, all that stuff. They're just like full blown, they just master the elements. I love that fantasy for Shamans.
Other talents cause Lava Lash to summon in Searing Totems that you can trigger to fire off like fireball volleys. It isn't implemented yet, but a cool thing is that your Storm Strike can arc a lightning bolt over the totem, which will buff the totem, and then that will amplify the bolt and send another one onto the target.
That's
cool.
If
that looks half as cool as it sounds, Shamans are winning. Just the look and feel playing a shaman, man, it's immense. And for a bit of how the sausage is made, thinking about this on Alpha was actually so enticing that Matt threw away some of his MOP remix plans and just went and played a shaman instead. So that does seem exciting. Okay, elsewhere, there are continued minor changes across hero talent trees. It's just Blizzard dialing in feedback.
Yeah.
The Mountain Thane, the Wild Stalker, and the Void Weaver have been the main focus this week. And to cover those, we're doing a full
hero
video
talents,
on changes.
All right, that's going to be the main changes in all of the alpha stuff, and even beta. It's just going to be the thing they have to balance the entire time, basically.
Changes to classes and hero talents in a bit more depth, because I really want to dive into that, so probably next week. But the core point I would say here is that Blizzard are doing a very commendable job when it comes to the class stuff here. Now, yes, there have certainly been eyebrow-raising things. The Demonic Core thing is just a really good example of something where if you think, if you take away your I'm a Warlock player hat and you put on a I'm trying to make Warlocks in World of Warcraft hat as a developer, then it is kind of a problem if one of the specs is just radically more, mobile and everything else, but also has got the sort of similar utility, right? It just feels a little OP. That's probably what they would say, and to them that's a problem, because maybe they don't want people to feel railroaded into playing that spec or something like that, or whatever. So I can understand them wanting to solve the problem. I can also understand how, as a player, you're like, no, screw that. I don't identify with the fantasy of being a turret. Actually, this version where I just fire off instant cast demon bolts, that's way cooler. I'll have that, please. Which is, obviously what you're going to think as a player. If I was playing a Warlock, I would be thinking that as well. I just want to see, how do they deal with this? I think maybe they should dial back their change a little bit. But
yeah,
yes.
I have been feeling like, just based on comments from my other YouTube videos, a lot of the Warlock community has been upset. I've been noticing that. A lot of them, because I always say, oh, Warlocks are the baby, they're the love child of World of Warcraft. They always get the best shit. And they've been complaining a lot lately. So I don't know what happened to their specs, or what, if they're all being pushed in a single spec and they don't like that. But yeah, the Warlock community is up in arms. They are pissed off. So I hope these changes help some of that.
While there have been things like that, the core thing we're seeing here is they are responding to feedback pretty damn quick. Again, as compared to some other alphas, this is a step up. Really, I think a very high bar of developer engagement, I think, with the community and iteration in classes. There has been a higher bar for a while, and I think that bar... they're maintaining it, they're keeping it high. I suppose I'm a little anxious about what Holy Paladins end up like. And there's also questions over healing going on, but I'll leave that to the likes of Ellesmere and Jack, who know a lot more about healing than I do. Okay, the final thing I want to talk about the alpha then is, well, as I said last week, all the zones are in. You can now make level 78, I believe, template characters. So you can basically be at max level very, very quickly. All the zones are testable, and I believe there's even post-game campaign
stuff. Freaking alpha ended. I never even got access to it. Blizzard doesn't like me.
It is testable. Now, them flipping it over from alpha to beta, I think that will pretty much happen anytime now. Insofar as main bits of kind of data mining, stuff like that, you're probably going to see a slowdown, I think. But what you will see an increase of is just game features. So there's a lot more to delves and things like that we just don't have right now. So basically expect those to be in, but I think the core thing now is the entire expansion, for the most part, is there and is testable. And what we've really, I think, also seen is this has been a very, very high-quality testing process.
Yeah, I was going to say, by the way, this alpha, I don't know if you guys have been around, playing WoW for a long time, but this is the most polished alpha I've ever seen. Even in terms of, games, the zone itself. Remember, alphas, a lot of times back in the day, there was, a lot of, boxes that were just placed, a ton of placeholders, weird shit going on. Clearly, parts of the zones that hadn't been finished yet. This alpha, it looked like they were playing the game, legitimately playing the expansion for a lot of it. So it was nice to see. That means beta is going to be essentially the final game. They're going to spend a lot of this time probably between alpha and beta, balancing out hero talents, finishing out a lot of the stuff, working on a lot of the feedback they got, because they've been doing a really good job of that. But in terms of where they are right now with the expansion, if alpha is an indication of anything, they are extremely far along. They are really doing good. So I'm not expecting any delays when it comes to when this expansion is going to release, even though we just talked about mid-September or whatever. Maybe that was always the plan. But they're doing a good job, that's for sure.
They have been making a lot of changes. They have been engaging with the community pretty well. So overall, to be honest with you, thumbs up. And a thumbs up for our final story today, which is the Brawlers Guild will be back. Okay, there's an interview with Windows Central, and via that, we got the soft confirmation of the Brawlers Guild, just not for launch. Here's the exact quote. For Brawlers Guild, this is something we do want to bring back in an evergreen format, but not right away at the War Within launch. So, an evergreen way sounds way better than the seasonal mode, because some of those fights, they're too fun to just, like, not have them be in the game at all. It's weird. Seriously. Anyway, in the same interview, archaeology was also mentioned with a surprising caveat, right? Quote, we didn't foresee this coming back in its previous format or as a profession. So, they've wanted to bring it back with a rework, but now they're saying not as a profession, which is very interesting. Will that be more of a Delves-like system in the future? Maybe less focused on combat, more focused on exploration and lore, maybe not framed?
I could imagine them doing these things kind of like a Mage Tower or, you know, some kind of challenge mode event. I think Brawlers Guild's cool. I do want them to bring it back. It's good just kind of content to do on the side. But not for launch. Yeah, there's going to be a lot to do at launch anyways. It's okay if this comes out later.
Actually, as a profession, but just as content in the game, certainly is interesting to me. And the idea of a Brawlers Guild coming back is awesome. I absolutely want to see that. I want to see that be the sort of thing
There's also lore behind the Brawlers Guild. Like, we are being watched, supposedly, by the Void or whatever. There's, like, there's secret entities that watch the Brawlers Guild, supposedly, to learn about us. So there is lore behind it. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes back in that aspect as well.
They can just toss in a few new boss fights every now and then. To just keep that feature going. And also, remember, there is a 13th delve that is kind of modeled after the Mage Tower in terms of its level of difficulty. You know, if you're a solo player, but you still do want to, like, show or prove to yourself that you can play WoW really well, that you can master your class mechanics. The idea that there could be a Brawlers Guild and also a 13th delve that's like a Mage Tower, and of course also the Mage Tower itself, I think that's really nice. So, that is it for the news this week, but be sure to subscribe to our channel and set those notifications because next week there will be a lot. Class changes, mob remix guides. It's a pretty damn fun time to be here with Warcraft. So I will see you all there. A massive thank you to our members over at Bellular.Games. We're cooking up plans for more lore walking stuff, and the TLDR is over there. Basically, our members get access to our content early and ad-free. We have additional posts up there as well, and lore walking podcast. And, well, yeah, it's the best way to help us in our mission of doing things. So, big thank you to all of you as well. And with that said, I'll see you next time. Oh, and I'll be replaced by a video, so click on it. It'll be good.
Oh, there it is. It's a good video. A lot of updates across the board, and I think we're going to get more and more updates going forward, especially this time between alpha and beta. That's all they're going to do is tweak things, rebalance things, add new things into the game, prepare for what will eventually be beta, and then the eventual launch of the War Within expansion. Nice video.